Waging war on corruption. Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network. Big Brother, mainstream media, government cover-ups. You want answers? Well, so does he. He's Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network. And now, live from Austin, Texas, Alex Jones.
I get chills when I read this legislation. I get chills when the AP and Los Angeles Times and Washington Post all announce like it's a good idea. Oh, private banks will now rule America and be able to take over your gas station, your hot dog stand, your factory. They will rule everything. And it's mainstream news. But it's worse than I had always thought from their own documents. It's not just going to be a bank of the world that sets world currency rates and sets interest rates and sets tax rates worldwide, but it's going to shut down and take over and seize whatever businesses it wants. Obama regulatory reform plan officially establishes banking dictatorship in the United States. Key story at prisonplanet.com. And the way they work is they bankrupt the economy by design. They say, give us the banker takeover. They steal $14.8 trillion in 7 months, $5 trillion more than the entire GDP in a year. Online to double the GDP next October. So from October to October, double the GDP given to the banks that we then pay interest on. We give them the money, and then we have to pay interest on it to the offshore banks. And they got away with that, so why not go ahead and announce, okay, private banks will now rule the United States, and the Federal Reserve governorship buildings with the Army guarding them. This is on the news. The Army now works for them. This is in the news. They're saying all protest is terrorism, official news. All protest is terrorism, period. Just total tyranny. And it says the executive powers are now to be given to the Fed, and that Congress, the courts have no authority, no nothing. And Congress is going to vote away this authority. And with a treaty, is what it is, with the private Federal Reserve governors. I mean, this is incredible. I knew this was coming later, and that through the national security states they've set up, the offshore banks, the corporate takeover, would then administer the governments, but with some illusion still of a ceremonial Congress. This removes it completely. And the other big issue here is that this isn't making a big splash. They're just reporting, yeah, private banks, in the words of the LA Times, the government, in conjunction with the private Federal Reserve, would effectively have the clout to simply seize and take over any company it desires. And it's got UT professors in here admitting it's a total takeover. The sweeping overhaul of the financial system, detailed by Geithner on behalf of Obama administration, does not overhaul the system at all, writes Prynus, giving the Fed a bigger role, creating a council of regulators to oversee the existing oversight bodies, and allowing the biggest Wall Street players to maintain their status leaves the system intact. Well, it does more than that. The Federal Reserve is not a fully public entity. This is a professor whitewashing. It has amassed a set of $7.87 trillion worth of facilities. It's a lot more than that. And other entities through which it has lavished cheap loans in return for questionable collateral from the banking system, which it's just the consortium or holding company of the private banks. So to say it's regulating them is a joke. It has kept the true nature of these transactions a secret despite numerous FOIA requests, and it has actively promoted the creation of bigger institutions in a chaotic environment rather than putting the brakes on the creation of these giants, concludes. Proof of the agenda of implementing overt financial dictatorship is being carefully coordinated can be seen in the fact that an almost identical scheme is also being set up in the United Kingdom, where, quote, the governor of the Bank of England has called for greater powers to allow it to fulfill its new role of promoting financial stability, according to BBC, over industries and companies. Just as the U.S., King, the head of the Bank of England, is calling for a traditional independent regulatory bodies to be all but abolished and replaced by the Bank of England itself, which, just like the Federal Reserve, is a private outfit with no accountability to the government whatsoever. And it just goes on and on. The article is devastating. by Paul Watson, all footnoted. We need your help getting this out to everybody. This is the end of our form of government, officially, if this passes, and officially under banker offshore corporate dictatorship. Hello. All right, I want to finish up with, if they win, if they succeed, the next phases. Because I keep telling you the next few phases, and now we've reached those next phases. So now we need to discuss what's coming after that. Then we'll continue at 1-800-259-9231 to take your phone calls. But this article right here, zoom in on this for me, guys. I am asking the listeners to please get this article and get this out to everybody, because this is officially a private financial dictatorship that is taking over our country and taking over the world. We're going to talk about this with Gary Franchi next hour in studio, and also take your calls on that as well. But I'm asking you, I mean, for some reason, Ron Paul's admitting it's setting up a dictatorship of the bankers. Other people are pointing out it gives them absolute dictatorial power, but nobody is, I think, putting all the pieces together of what this means. In the interest of time, I'm not going to read the rest of the article. There's pages and pages left here with the things they're doing. I mean, these bastards have completely bankrupted our society by design. Now, the most important facet to all of this is, if we're unable to defeat the bankers doing their overhaul, which gives them total government power through the national security grid. And notice they just put up on the screen Gerald Celente on Russia Today. By the way, we're interviewing him again for the new Obama film. And there he is saying, Wall Street is Washington and Washington is Wall Street. And there's all these top Democrats coming out and going, yes, banks completely run us. And they're offshore banks. In fact, if I have time later, that's only a 6-minute clip. I might play some of that here live at prisonplanet.tv. This is just so incredible that I am actually dumbfounded. I just, it's so over the top. And then we're the weirdos for not wanting offshore banks openly running all corporations, all companies. If you make contributions to the political parties, they let you keep your dealership open because the government runs it for political favors, and they take over $10 billion off the stimulus money and give it to neighborhood groups. And the New York Times reports, oh, the money's being spent to train Boy Scouts to do fugitive apprehension and gun confiscation and take on disgruntled vets for Homeland Security. And it shows them with machine guns practicing. And then yesterday, oh, the Green Corps is made up of criminals who've set their life straight now to go out and do audits of people's homes. I mean, and, oh, 13 million Obama supporters are going door to door asking people to support the health care takeover. This is a complete and total raping of society. And where does it go from here? Well, the establishment is going to follow the same methodology. And they're going to continue to do this over and over and over again. They are going to create the crisis, say their solution is to give them more power and control. Crisis gets worse. Say, do what we say or things are going to get worse. When they wanted the banker bailout in October, people wouldn't do it. They said there'll be a huge depression, basically the end of the world, the end of America, if this doesn't happen. And then things got worse when we did what they wanted. And the corruption intensified. And they said it's secret where the trillions went. We're not going to tell you. But then the banks themselves brag and say, we're getting billion-dollar bonuses. We're buying up the infrastructure. We're using federal regulators to force smaller banks and insurance companies to sell to us, and we're buying them up with the bailout money. It's a vertical integration, a consolidation. And now they're saying, oh, we got to have regulation, a change of things, a remake, a upgrade, as if it's a good thing, an overhaul of the banking system. And what is that? Total dictatorial power through the national security state for Wall Street that set up the CIA and the National Security Act of 47 and this whole system. They're now just fully, with the environmental regulations and with the corporate regulations and government regulations, taking over the whole society and building up the massive paramilitary forces, and Northcom openly announcing and preparing to engage the American people to carry this out. Now, that said, they will probably pass this. Things will further be bankrupted. Society will break down. There will unemployment will be at 25-30%. It's already really at 20%, according to all the economists we have on. The government's cook numbers are over 10%. And then, so the only pillar left will be the corrupt government, funded by fiat currency and credit, owned by the private bankers, paid for with our tax money. And again, we pay interest to give them the money. We give them the money, then pay interest. We're paying to be slaves. It's a new form of slavery, where you don't just not get paid as a slave, but you pay to be a slave. You understand? A new level. And the bankers are worshipped by the media their own, and everybody says that they basically created the planet and that we got to pay taxes to breathe, as the New York Times said. In fact, Google a tax on breathing. I want to show people that New York Times headline where they say it's good, though. They say, yes, this is the carbon tax will be a tax on respiration. A tax to breathe or a tax on breathing was the headline. And they're going to use that to regulate, shut down the farms and ranches, fund huge bureaucrat armies with the unlimited cash they print to harass your businesses, your factories, huge carbon taxes on you, not on China, India, Mexico, and hundreds of other countries. So that'll further drive industry and jobs out. Then all that's left is big mega agribusiness, and the big corporations will still own the factories and the companies, but they'll get government contracts to finance it. And so you will go to work. You will swipe a national ID card, real ID, to have your job. The illegals will be exempt and will all be legalized under the guest worker program. You'll be arrested for letting somebody mow your lawn for barter. Cash is going to be phased out. Even if you pay with cash, it's going to have chips in it. They've now announced this. And then you'll thumbprint to buy and sell. There's going to be a graduated sales tax globally and a carbon tax or group of carbon taxes on that. They're already passing those. So every facet of your life is going to be micromanaged and controlled, and all the major university grants and the tuition that's paid and the scholarships, already the majority scholarships are law enforcement, data mining, homeland security, infrastructure protection, law enforcement. ITT Technical doesn't teach computer programming. They're now ITT law enforcement or security guards, and they're going to have law enforcement power. And so the entire economy is being shifted from a free market economy into a command and control with these private banks that own the private prisons, own the private security firms, own the private security firms that administer the municipal police departments and county sheriff's departments, now being federalized and taken over by the states, who then hand it over to federal control. And so you won't have a chance to be outside the system, because the only jobs available will be government or government related. And the very architecture of the job that are out there will be spying on your neighbors, tattletaling, controlling people, going after resistors, micromanaging and squeezing all the farms and ranches through animal ID and premises ID. Yeah, punch up that article. Taxing us for breathing, real clear politics. Click on it, go to the original article, please. We have it archived there, but let's see if it's the blue link where it says real clear politics. Yep. And you can see it there. And then that article, if I remember, reports on the New York Times. Yes, it says, last week the New York Times published an extraordinary editorial explaining that right now everyone is using an atmosphere like a municipal dump, depositing carbon dioxide free. The Times editor suggested that the government start charging for the privilege by imposing a carbon tax or a tax on breathing. Yeah, click on the New York Times link. There you have it. So there is the control grid that we're discussing and breaking down here. And so you won't have a choice. You'll have to join the police academy or the federal academy. You will have to go into their grids. You will have to follow what they're saying, because the whole society's designed, there'll only be credit, there'll only be loans given to the bankers out of fiat nothingness, backed up with your tax money, to select industries they want. And they say they're doing this because of robotics and automation. Everybody's going to have cars and Xboxes and entertainment, but you're going to be in compact cities and highly controlled. They want to phase all that out and give you jobs in surveilling and controlling people so they can get their pure dictatorship, their scientific dictatorship in control, to then carry out the forced eugenics and forced exterminations. And because the ratio will be 10% of the public at least being cops alone, heavily armed, licensed to kill at the drop of a hat for talking back, and then another 40, 50% they're saying will be bureaucracy and surveillance. They're talking well over half being government, and then the rest will be corporations servicing government. And only if you're an insider, only if you've got special connections will you be able to own a farm, a ranch, a business, and then in successive waves, they're going to take those over as well, and then only give you a small percentage of your original business profits, and then phase it out completely. Corruption will run rampant like it did in the Soviet Union, Maoist China, and Nazi Germany, and Soviet Germany, and Eastern Germany. Locals will kill you, imprison you for your property or business. Right now, you already have to make payoffs to keep your dealership or business to the environmental criminals. All children will be raised in government-controlled dormitories. You'll be allowed to see them on the weekends if your children don't report you. It's going to be fun for the kids. They're going to get bonuses and drugs and things when they say you yell at them. Then you'll have total parental rights terminated, just hellish control over everything. And you will all be injected with the cancer viruses, increased sodium fluoride in the water supply. Most people will be sterile, already 85% are. This is the new system. Stay with us. By the way, everybody's freaking out over this Blackjack comic book that was in the London Telegraph, where the government stages nuke attacks and brings in martial law. And now the London Telegraph's been putting out blurbs about real FEMA drills that they're doing with the Pentagon and foreign governments. It's on Homeland Security's website and Northcom to take over the U.S. And so they have a comic book simultaneously that has these codes that everybody's breaking, and it even tells you how to break the codes. It's like comic book stuff to promote the launch of a new Jericho comic book. And then it simultaneously lists real FEMA martial law takeover drills going on now this week. And so now when we talk about the real FEMA drills, they'll go, oh, that was that comic book. This is all a psyop. This is why they do this. Psychiatrists run these operations, and I've read different documents on why they do it, but they believe it's revelation of the method. It confuses reality with unreality. It's like, oh, you said the government flew a hijacked jet in the World Trade Center and used drills to make NORAD stand down. That was on X-Files 6 months before 9/11. You got it from that. And we're like, yeah, exactly. But there really were drills on 9/11 to make NORAD stand down. It was just like the TV program. And they go, no, it was a TV show. So massive programming going on there. We're going to have a report for you at prisonplanet.com coming up later on that subject as well. So definitely stay with us for that. But again, in the real world, not a comic book, not a joke, is this. Zoom in on that for me again, please. This is so important, ladies and gentlemen. This is absolutely vital for everybody to look at, everybody to understand. Obama regulatory reform plan officially established as banking dictatorship in the United States. And I'm going to go over this with Gary Franchi coming up in the next hour. And for those of you holding Robert, Dave, Jared, Dave, Dominic, and others, we're going to break it down. But when I was ranting and raving last segment about how your kids are going to live in dormitories, that's in the government documents. That's in the textbooks we've posted and linked to at Infowars.com, where they say the family is animalistic and ancient and belongs to the age of barbarism and has got to be outlawed. And they admit now the CIA set up Miss Magazine to break up the family, so both the husband and wife have got to work for the bankers and pay taxes, so the state raises the kids. And now the economy gets worse and worse, and right on time the government says, oh, we'll keep your babies from birth in Head Start government programs and inoculate them and drug them and take care of them. And we'll keep your kids after school until 7, 8, 9, 10 at night so you can have a chance after work to go have fun at the bar. The media even says Go have fun at the bar. Go enjoy yourself. Watch your TV shows. We'll keep your kids. And the parents go, well, don't mind if I do. China, the poor families have their kids live in dormitories and then work in fireworks factories and other factories 5-6 hours a day, and then go to government training and the rest of the day learning how to worship the state, learning how to turn in their parents. And then as this gets worse and worse, and the kids are already showing up in red and black uniforms, these city year groups running by David Gergen, who gets all this money from the feds to do it, swearing allegiance to Obama, hiring felons and criminals to join it. This is in the New York Times, but they're reporting it like it's good. Then the kids come home with these tickets. They write mock tickets to their parents. You took a hot bath. That's a green crime. And then they give a copy to the parents and then take it. This is in the New York Times. And the parents are, oh, I'm so glad my daughter's reporting me. So see, it's for this, oh, it's for the earth. Yes, there's spies, but, oh, and the, you know, by the time you're 12, you get a uniform, and then they show up in black boots and sit back and start bossing their parents around. The parents are now scared of the kids. And the kids are just on power trips, loving the state. And the Boy Scouts are training with machine guns to take on the, quote, veterans and gun owners. And the Homeland Security documents say the veterans and the gun owners are the #1 threat. Now the official Army training manual, public, not even classified, says all protest is terrorism and illegal. I mean, they are just really coming out in the open. We have a criminal, rogue government, period.